Today, we're going to be going over how the market administrator for Incognito had his Monero traced. Now, this is a really important video because I'm going to be essentially showing you the template for how law enforcement is going to be trying to quote-unquote trace Monero. This involves timing analysis and CoinSwap services. Now, just to be clear, this person made a lot of opsec errors, and they were caught for a lot of different reasons. Monero, of course, was one of the pieces of evidence that was presented. However, the person had already made a lot of mistakes. The key one being they got arrogant and cocky, and they became pretty lazy with covering up their tracks, and they were eventually caught. So anyway, let's jump in. I have a Twitter thread that we're going to read through for this that I had created back in May when this story broke. And we start off here saying, the arrest of Ru Xian Lin, alleged owner of darknet site Incognito Market, gives us a peek into the current efforts of law enforcement to catch criminals and how they are adapting to the growing use of Monero. Incognito Market was created on October 20, 2020, and exit scammed in March 2024. This period of time is curious for supporters of Monero because it roughly represents the transition period between Bitcoin darknet market dominance towards Monero darknet market dominance, which it does. You know, if you look historically at darknet markets, 2020 saw the rise of White House Market, which was eventually a Monero-only marketplace. And this really created a transition where now suddenly most markets had both Bitcoin and Monero. And today, most markets are being created as Monero only. And so because of that, it became very common for markets to have both Bitcoin and Monero. In this case, it actually shows that between the market existing from November 9th, 2020 to January 9th, 2024, there were 265,000 Monero transactions and 244,000 Bitcoin transactions. So there were actually a little more Monero transactions than Bitcoin, which really just goes to show you how the market over time has changed. Now, how do we know all of this information? Well, it turns out all the transactions occurred on a centralized wallet located on a server that had been seized by law enforcement. And if that wasn't bad enough, a list of all the vendors, users, and orders can be found on one of the captured servers. So basically, the feds had the server with all this information on it, and that's how we know it's real. Now, speaking of these servers, it looks like law enforcement had executed a search warrant on or about July 20th, 2022, and the second search warrant on August 2nd, 2023, and this person was arrested in spring of 2024. So basically, law enforcement had been basically watching this guy for over 2 years, building their case. Now, usually when people see like the headline, "Oh, Monero was traced," they'll assume that this is why the person was caught. No, there was like a lot of different things going on. Now, it's actually quite possible that there's some parallel construction here where they somehow found out who this person was, and then they had to work backwards and piece together evidence that they usually would not have had without getting tipped off. That's all speculation, though. We don't know for sure. But in seeing this, they somehow knew that this server that this person was running was illegal, and they executed a search warrant on it. And from there, they started building their case. So yeah, this centralized Bitcoin bank wallet is where all the Bitcoin transactions in the market were funneled through. And it was examined with chain analysis. It was trivial to find the suspect's main wallet because of all the Bitcoin that flowed from the marketplace wallet to the suspect wallet. Very simple, right? They're looking at the marketplace wallet. Oh, it keeps going into this main Bitcoin wallet. It says here, during that time period, of the approximately 58 deposits in the administrator wallet from Bitcoin bank wallet, approximately 24 were whole value transfers, e.g. 1 Bitcoin or 5 Bitcoin, as opposed to 1.789 Bitcoin. This is because when transferring funds, the purpose of moving them, individuals tend to use whole simple numbers. On the other hand, when transferring funds with the purpose of purchasing items, the amounts tend to not be whole numbers because prices of items are pegged to fiat currencies, and cryptocurrency is highly volatile. This is actually a really good point. Amount analysis comes into play here. And this is just like a psychological thing. I do this as well, where like if I'm thinking about, okay, I want to get this much of Bitcoin or this much of Monero, you tend to round it off. That's just how we work. And so this person was funneling Bitcoin in these whole amounts. So yeah, 58 times from one wallet to another. it is indicative that there's a relationship between those two wallets, usually the same person, right? We then get into some basic errors that this person made. So this is an interesting one. On May 23rd, 2023, the administrator posted on a forum, I think it was Dread, and the post indicated in substance and in part that approximately 1 hour ago, 1 Bitcoin was sent to a swapping service, a coin swap service, for hot wallet rebalancing. Monero didn't come out of the other end and turned out to be confiscated. Their support replied with, "We received word from our exchange partner that your crypto was obtained through illegal proceedings. Please provide proof of funds." So in this case, he tried to swap for Monero, and his funds just were frozen. And they were like, "Hey, show us the proof." And this can happen today on many different coin swap services. And so when he posted this comment, the Bitcoin public ledger showed 1 Bitcoin transfer from that administrator wallet to a particular wallet address associated with that CoinSwap service. And this is labeled as transaction 1. And transaction 1 appears to be the transaction mentioned by the administrator in the above post, because indeed the time of the transaction of approximately 11:15 UTC aligns with the timing of the transfer recounted by the administrator, who indicated in the post, which was posted at approximately 12:07 UTC, that the transfer occurred an hour ago. So this timing analysis here does pretty easily link these two transactions and the person speaking about it, because there were no other 1 BTC transactions that had occurred. And also, this would be a lot of fiat value. So this guy was stupid off the bat, because like, why are you sending that much Bitcoin all at the same time? Of course, they're going to freeze it and say, "Hey, where is this coming from?" Most coin swap services would do that. And here's another opsec error where the administrator used that administration wallet that we've been looking at to purchase internet domains. At least 4 transactions were sent to Namecheap, which is an online domain registrar. Of these domains, they were related to Incognito Market. So basically, that wallet, which has been doxed already, was used to purchase websites associated, or at least domains associated with Incognito Market. All right, so now we get to the most important part of the video, the timing analysis of Monero. So as mentioned before, the Bitcoin wallet was doxed, this administrator wallet 1. And then on July 26, 2021, that wallet transferred approximately 0.4 Bitcoin to a particular swapping service, which they're going to call swapping service 2. And that was swapped for approximately 6.7681 Monero. Approximately 21 minutes later, after the 0.4 Bitcoin transfer from administrator wallet 1, which was converted to 6.7681 Monero, crypto account 1 received a deposit of 6.7681 Monero. Here's another one. On or about May 15, 2022, at approximately 3:18 UTC, administrator wallet 1 transferred 1 Bitcoin to swapping service 1. Approximate value at the time of transfer was $29,745, where it was swapped for approximately 193.68 Monero. 40 minutes after the 1 Bitcoin transfer from administrator wallet 1, which was converted to 193.68 Monero, crypto account 1 received a deposit of 180 Monero. On or about May 17, 2022, at approximately 9:59 UTC, administrator wallet 1 transferred 1 Bitcoin to swapping service 1, which, by the way, it should be noted that he's using different swapping services. We have swapping service 2 up here, and this is swapping service 1 for the rest of the examples. Anyway, he transferred Bitcoin in the amount of 176.07 Monero, and approximately 27 minutes after that transfer, his crypto account received a deposit of 180 Monero. And here, May 31st, 2022, at approximately 8:33 UTC, administrator wallet transferred 2 Bitcoin to swapping service 1, where it was swapped for approximately 304.74 Monero. Then, 35 minutes after that transfer, which was converted to 304 Monero, crypto account 1 received a deposit of 300 Monero. So this is exactly what I've been describing with timing analysis. This person, they were lazy. They were sending Bitcoin from the wallet, which was already doxed, sending it to the CoinSwap service, and they were getting Monero in return. And then they would have to wait for the 10 block wait time. They waited the 10 blocks, and then they would send the Monero. And all of these happened around the same time. We see here May 15, May 17, May 31st. These all happened around the same time. They included very similar amounts being sent. The Bitcoin was sent for Monero. Monero was received, and then amounts very similar to the amounts that were received in return were then sent to the exchange. Usually, this one was 40 minutes. The one over here was 35. We have 27 minutes, etc. It's a very, very similar pattern. And just by looking at it, we can trace it. There's other things too that this is not talking about that in addition can bolster their case. For example, poison outputs. If they know the outputs associated with the transaction from the CoinSwap site, they will be able to see that poison output appear in the ring signature when it's submitted to the crypto exchange. This doesn't mention that, but that is another thing that they can use in their case when they're presenting it in front of a jury, right? Another thing, IP addresses. If his IP address is attached to this and it's attached to the KYC exchange, that can link them. The user agent as well is something we've mentioned. So there's a lot of different angles that can be used here. And yes, this pretty much doxes him and shows when he was sending Monero. So this really exemplifies why using CoinSwap services is not like a silver bullet at all. You have to be aware that all this information is being logged. And in this case, it was used against him. Now, there are some very peculiar things about this case too that are interesting to point out. So to help me out, my robot is going to talk about that. Robot, take it away.
Beep-boop. This person was a Monero community member and has a Twitter account with a decent amount of followers, and he was very much involved with Monero, with many posts talking about Monero and cryptocurrency news. In fact, he even presented at a 4-day workshop at St. Lucia Police Academy, where he talked about proper opsec, which is hilariously ironic. What's even crazier is he also attempted to extort the market. After he already had screwed the market users over by exit scamming, he then reopened the market saying that he was going to give all of their information away unless they paid him. So I imagine he is having a lot of fun in prison right now. Bee-boo.
Yeah, this guy has to rank as one of the most arrogant people I think I've come across since I've started, studying OPSEC. His OPSEC was not good from the very beginning in many different ways, but, he thought he was at the top of the world and that he couldn't be touched. One thing I didn't mention was that he had some server issues at one point. So then he went on Google and searched those server issues that he was having, and his Google email was attached actually to that Google search. And feds actually saw that his website was down during that time, and they were able to link him that way as well. There's just a lot of little things like that where he was just lazy and he wasn't really paying attention to what he was doing. So yeah, the fact that he would then, give a workshop teaching about or deepening the understanding of digital currencies and cybercrime to 30 officers is hilariously ironic, because during this entire time, the feds were monitoring him for over 2 years. In a lot of these cases, they already know who the suspect is, but they're just building a case. They're clocking in overtime. They're trying to get something that absolutely will not lose in court, and then they're just, getting paid for it. And in this case, again, this guy was already known, but they were kind of just playing around with him. So was Monero used to figure out who this person was? No. And in every case I've seen so far, Monero is just kind of an afterthought. When they're building their case, they can go back and look at metadata this person might have left behind, and then they can maybe connect the dots. But, when they're going into these investigations, if the person's using Monero, that just makes their life more inconvenient. They find out they're using Bitcoin. Oh, okay, we can kind of relax a little bit. This should be easier, right? But if they're just using Monero, and especially if they don't have a social media presence, they understand that Google is bad, all these things, then it's going to be a lot harder for them. In this case, this bad actor made a lot of mistakes, and he then attempted to extort a bunch of criminals. So I think that's probably not going well for him. Back in jail right now. Have fun, buddy. Anyways, that's the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, feel free to donate if you found the content to be enjoyable. And I haven't mentioned this in 20 episodes, but like and subscribe. You can do that too. Thanks for watching.